I'm Jasmine Bibb, and this is To the Woman It May Concern, the podcast, a show where real women talk about real life, one letter at a time. High-performing women navigating identity, purpose, and becoming deserve a safe space, one without the pressure to have it all figured out. Each episode, we explore the wisdom, the wrestle, and the wonder of becoming the woman you were always meant to be. Because I believe every woman has a letter in her, one that could help someone else feel seen, heard, or simply not alone. So, let's get into it. Welcome to another episode of To the Woman It May Concern, the podcast. If you're new here, welcome for the very first time. And if you've joined me for some time now, so glad that you made the decision to listen to yet another episode. Today, I have joining me Heather Zirke. Heather, welcome.
Thank you, Jasmine. I'm so glad to be here.
Happy to have you. I really am. I think I say this and I will continue to say this, guys. Today, you're in for a treat, but today is a different kind of treat. Today's letter that Heather has to share with us is something that I think, topic wise, we will all find extremely near and dear to our hearts. I think what she has to share today is so relatable. And I really encourage you that as we go through this episode, you think about Heather's topic and your seat or the role you play or what that topic looks like in your day-to-day life and relationships. And so, with that being said, before Heather gets into her letter today, I want to share a little bit about Heather the person. And then, after sharing a little bit about Heather the person, we'll get into some of our warm up questions, and then we will get into Heather's letter and some conversation. So, with that being said, Heather Zirke is doing better than she thinks she is. She is a wife of 22 years and the mother of 2 teenage drivers. She loves to read, but watches a little too much TV. She keeps a spotless house, but never washes the car. She believes in authenticity, but never wears her natural curls. She loves to travel as much as she loves being at home in yoga pants. Her husband would say she is expensive, but she isn't as expensive as she wants to be. Heather is still learning and growing and marvels daily at her blessings. Again, thank you for joining me, Heather, and welcome to the podcast.
My pleasure, Jasmine.
Okay, so my favorite question, because I think it can tell you so much about a person or where they are in their life. My question to you is, if your life were a soundtrack, what would song number 1 be?
Song number one would be a song called Evidence by Josh Baldwin.
Okay.
And if you ask me this question next week, it might be a different song, but I heard the song recently. It's an older song, and I heard it on my walk on Sunday morning. And the words came back to me. I love the words of this song. I see the evidence of your goodness all over my life. I see promises and forgiveness. Promises and fulfillment is the lyric all over my life. And I hadn't heard the song in a while, and I just, I love those words. Um, so for right now, and I think that's the season I'm in, just feeling grateful.
I think that's huge. I think those words, when you hear them, it's so interesting. Sometimes when you listen to songs that have lyrics like that, how they wash over you based on like how true they are to you, you're like, wow, like it's almost like, I am grateful for what I have. And I do realize XYZ is happening. It really is like an aha moment.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay. My second question for you would be, Why'd you say yes to joining me on this podcast?
I said yes because my first instinct was to say no. Um, I think that I have been a guest on other podcasts, and it always scares me, and so getting another invitation, it's a little bit scary. Putting yourself out there is a little bit scary. It feels very permanent. What if I say the wrong thing? And like I did the other 2 times, this is my 3rd time on a podcast. I need to say yes to the things that are scary sometimes. So I said yes, um, knowing that I'd be a little bit nervous, but it's also you, Jasmine, and so how scary can it be? I know we're
Thank you.
gonna chat. I know we're gonna have a nice conversation.
Agreed. We do have some really great conversations, and I am so glad that you said yes in spite of maybe what your initial inkling was, especially because your letter is so just I'm really excited for people to hear your letter, and I'm really excited for today's
Thanks.
conversation. Mhm. Okay. With that being said, whenever you are ready, Heather, the floor is all yours to share your letter, and then we'll get into some conversation around your letter.
Thanks, Jasmine.
Mhm.
Dear friend, I understand why we don't talk about hard things. It's safer to keep the ugly parts of life safely tucked away. After all, I might judge you if I find out that your perfectly curated online presence isn't a true picture of your life. If you tell me that your son is barely reading at grade level, I might think you're a bad parent. And if you tell me your daughter is struggling with anxiety and peer conflict, I might think you aren't doing enough to help her. If you share that you and your husband are struggling financially, I might think you've made bad choices. And if you tell me about all the real and imagined fears you have about the future, I might think you're crazy and end our friendship today. So we can keep talking about other people's problems and pretend that we don't have any of our own. And when we walk away from our coffee cups, we might both feel relieved that we avoided talking about anything too heavy. But please know that as I'm getting older, my arms are tired from keeping my guard up. I'd like to tell you I'm not totally happy in my job. I wonder if I'm even in the right profession. I keep a tight grip on everything around me because I'm so afraid of losing control. So I often feel angry and frustrated and really scared. I don't need advice. I don't want to troubleshoot my life with you. I just want to know if you ever feel like I feel. So I'm going to take a chance and tell you something hard. Maybe you'll see that our table is a safe space. And maybe we will walk away from our coffee cups feeling seen and heard.
Mm, that's deep. I love it. I love it. I love it because, this show, you can come on and write a letter about anything. And I think oftentimes when we prepare our letters, we think about ourselves and our journeys and where we're going. And that's fine because each person's letter is different. But to shed light on friendships and vulnerability and transparency and the world we live in today and the realness that comes with feeling seen and being seen, that is, I almost don't have the words for it because it really is that powerful.
Yeah. Um, this season of life that my husband and I are in, where we have 2 teenagers now, like you said in my bio, 2 teenagers that are driving, and we're our older child, my daughter's going to college, and my son, who's a junior, just went to high school just this morning, first day of school, and he drove himself. I didn't have to drive him, and it's a weird feeling. And so there is a lot of change that's happening. We're entering it feels like a new season of life, and I just I don't feel like I have a lot of time for fluff. And so the people that I spend my time with, I want to be with, and I want to have real conversations with people. I want to hear about my friends' lives. Um, you know, and being a little bit, I'm not quite 50, almost 50. We just celebrated my husband's 50th birthday
Mhm.
over the weekend, and um, so when your kids are younger and you're around other adults more often at school functions and you have play dates and they're people that you can talk to about the season of life that you're in. And those conversations aren't always real or deep, but
Yep.
you have people around you that understand where you are, and you can sort of commiserate. And it's becoming more rare as I'm getting older and my kids are doing their own thing.
Mm,
And so finding real friends that are willing to talk about the hard that happens as your kids get older. I have a dear friend who would say to me, little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems. And that's true. As my kids are getting older and thinking about becoming adults and what they want to do, and the problems and the questions that they have are harder. And so I'm very grateful for my friends that are willing to share about what's hard for them, and that I can share with them what's hard for me.
mm. I love that because you think as you talk about where your children are now, and then knowing that I have a toddler, a 3-year-old, and I'm kind of at the beginning stages where it's preschool, but there are still school functions, quote unquote, that happen. And you're absolutely right from that perspective. I haven't had the opportunity to think about it yet, but you are surrounded by these adults and you are making small talk. And you are at this
Yeah.
point, I think the last conversation I had was, is your child potty trained? Like we're
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about those kinds of things, but still
Right.
nonetheless very surface level. You don't
Yeah.
know if these are the people that are always gonna be in your space. I think about my, childhood friends and my parents, and as you say this, I think about 3 or 2 or 3 specific childhood friends where our parents or our mothers more specifically met when we were in elementary school, and to this day they still go to dinner, take cooking classes
Oh,
together, like, they are true friends
they
outside
are.
of, like, our friendships, and you think
Wow.
when you frame it the way you have, that is so rare, and they do talk
It
about
is.
real life and the big challenges because they have adult children per se, but they still have things that they worry about, deal with, have
Yeah.
to give guidance on, and so they are
Yeah.
each other's space, that safe space. And so we'll talk more about safe spaces in a second, but the way that you've laid that out when we think about where the listener may be and their journey of parenting and then how that's associated with friendship, mm, that's good. That's really good. So, question, you mentioned it sometimes being hard and people are not always able to share, and that things remain surface level. Why is it that you think women struggle to share the hard stuff with one another when they are in relation, have connection, dare I say, even call themselves friends? Why is that so hard, you think?
I think it's hard because we're always comparing. It's just that game that we play with each other. And um, depending on who it is that you're with, there are different levels of comfort. I know I can share the really hard stuff with this person, but like I said in my letter, if I share some of these hard things with somebody I'm not that close with, then they might judge me. And by the way, all the things in my letter, are all things that at one time or another I have struggled with in my own life. And so, I have a teenager that's struggling, or I have an elementary school kid that, can is like barely learning how to read. And like you mentioned, Jasmine, about potty training. I remember those days. Like, is your kid potty trained yet? And you think, oh my gosh, my kid is still having accidents, and what's wrong with me? And um, and it's just hard because we don't want to be judged. And so how much is safe to share and still feel safe? So I think it's just because of that fear of being judged.
So, with that being said, you talked about finding the balance in what we share and who we share it with. Do you believe that there is possibly such a thing as sharing too much when we think about TMI with our friendships, surface level or real friendships?
Yeah, yeah, I think that there is. And, and and people are different and have, different comfort levels when it comes to sharing stuff. And so I try to be respectful of my kids, especially, because they have a right to their privacy. So I don't want to, so especially on social media, I don't share everything that's happening with my children. But with my really close friends, I can share the stuff that's really hard, the real struggles and my fears as a parent, and can feel safe and know that I'm not going to be judged. But I don't just share with anybody. I think that would be TMI with the wrong audience.
I agree. So, have you have ever had an instance where you felt like, okay, this is my friend. I'm going to share some things that otherwise I typically wouldn't share, but this is my friend. So I'm going to give it a try. And you started to share and you were like, uh oh, that was probably a little too much for this person.
Yeah, certainly. Certainly, I have done that. And you can see by the look on the person's face, like, oh, I just made this a little bit uncomfortable. So I'm gonna back this up a little bit. But I really love it when so I um now that I'm a little bit older and my body is changing, and I
Mhm.
find I have to eat differently, I have to exercise a lot more, and so I have a workout buddy, and she and I see each other several times a week. We need that accountability. I'm so thankful for my friendship with her. We started out with just neighbors, and we're both going to exercise class, so we'll give each other a ride. And we've been doing that now for more than 2 years, and so it's been so lovely that I can open up a little bit, and she always receives what it is that I wanna share with her, and I feel like we're being a little bit vague because, again, TMI, but, when that I can share things about my kids and about my marriage and just where we are and our parents, our relationships with the people that are closest to us, our siblings, and to have somebody just to be able to relate to, that understands, and to know that I can say anything. She's not going to judge me. We're going to laugh. It is such a gift, and and to have somebody that consistent that I see several times a week. We all have our really close friends from college or high school, and maybe you see them every 6 months. And I love those times when you can just jump back into a conversation you can pick up right where you left off. But having a friend that I see in person several times a week, it is a great blessing.
I agree. I think sometimes the friendships that we value most come in the rare packaging or the random moments. And, you may not have known them your whole life and they may not know the back end of your story, but it's like
Yeah,
they come and God gives them to you when
yeah,
you need them most, and vice versa for them as well, I'm sure.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Yeah, this friend, in particular, we both have neurodivergent children,
mhm.
and I love that we can laugh about the funny, quirky stuff, and that it is just it is a friendship that I didn't know that I needed
Mm,
until God gave it to me. I mean, there are things that we can share with each other that, I feel like only we can understand as the moms of neurodivergent children. Um, and it makes life better that you can share the the hard stuff and the wins um, on the journey.
agreed. So you have this workout buddy that has become your friend that you mentioned. Obviously, you've talked about you've got those friends that you see every so often, every 6 to 9 months, things of that nature. Do you
Yeah.
feel that in those friendships, if you line them all up, do you feel as though you have to be a different version of Heather for each of those friendships? And if so, how do you ensure that you're aware of that and that you either tweak it for the better because you know that they need something different from you if you think about, like, being a strong friend with one person and maybe not with the other? And then for those friendships that we're lining up that exhaust you,
Mm.
what do you do with those?
Yeah. Oh, that's a fantastic question, Jasmine. So the first part of your question, like, am I the same person? Do I need to change sort of like a chameleon
Mhm.
depending on who I'm with? I'm sure that I do that. I've never really thought about that before, but I'm sure that I do. When I think about, I at this time in my life, I really cherish my friendships with moms of older kids and that I can sort of know what's on the horizon. And
Mm.
so when I have those, there's one woman in particular we meet every 6 months, like clockwork, because I got to know what's going on with her. I got to know what's coming up for me. And so in that setting, I'm sort of the mentee. She's kind of the mentor. I'm the mentee. I'm sitting at the yogi's feet or
Yeah.
whatever, and she's teaching me. And so I'm different. But then I think about some of my former students, and recently I've moved, I've pivoted into sort of a new career, and I'm working with students, which I absolutely love. And when I meet with students and former students, then I'm sort of in the role of the mentor and with my mentees. And so, yeah, there are different hats that I wear, and I'm grateful for all of them. But I have also had those relationships that are just, they become a little bit exhausting. It's a little bit too much work. And maybe that's not fair. I mean, maybe some friendships do require some work, but I feel like, it's enough that I have a marriage to work on. I have relationships with my children that need care and attention. And um, so I have certainly ended friendships. And sometimes you don't realize that it's happening. It's just you sort of spend less and less time with each other, and it happens very gently. But there has been an instance where I realized there was a relationship that is it's just not good for my life. And so that was a friendship that did end rather abruptly. I hope that's the one and only time that that happens in my life. But I think as I'm getting older, that's just also something that I'm willing to do because my time is precious, family time is precious, and I don't want to be it with people that just make me feel uncomfortable. And, I don't think my friend is getting much out of the relationship. So let's be done. It's okay.
It is okay because people come into your life for a reason and a season sometimes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Hmm.
How do you, because time is so precious, you are Yes, you have older children, but you are still a working mom with a demanding career. So I think as someone like myself who has a younger child and also a demanding career,
Yeah.
my issue is making time for friendships. And so for a listener similar to myself, rather it be a toddler, a school age kid, or an older kid, as the uh, wise one, how do you make time for your friendships when time is so limited and is so valuable? You think for me right now, I want to be home for bedtime and I want to be there to ask how school was. And, you want all of those small moments, but our friendships and being away from our children give us like a little bit of a rejuvenation to come back and be the best
Yes.
version of ourselves. But how do you
Yeah.
make time for those friendships?
Yeah. Oh, I love that you said that. Because you're so right. Because there is, when you get with a good friend, you do just feel renewed and refreshed, which is why I love having just real conversations with people. I don't want to talk for an hour about fluff because I do walk away feeling like I sort of wasted my time.
Yeah.
And, I feel when you sit and gossip with somebody, you're just sort of dragged down by all of that. But I think that, just like to get back to your question, how do you make time for it? We just have to plan for it. We have to schedule it. Even if it means that you put time on the calendar months out in advance. So my friend who I meet with every 6 months, we have breakfast and we put the next date on the calendar for 6 months so that we know that we're going to see each other in 6 months. And it's amazing how quickly that 6 months comes.
Yes.
There are a couple friends from college. We're in a text group, and it's time that we see each other in person. Let's find a date. We have a date on the calendar. It's 2 months from now when we can get together in person, but you just have to prioritize. And I know that you have a supportive, loving partner,
Mhm.
and I am so fortunate to have a supporting, loving partner that understands that I need that time and that I know that I can make these plans
Yeah.
and I'm not going to be resented
Yep.
because I want to spend some time with my girls because it does make it. I come back and I'm happier.
Yep.
Hopefully a better partner and a better mom. And it's easy when your kids are little to say, I don't want to miss anything. You want to be there all the time. And I didn't see my friends a whole lot when my kids are little. And 2, it's hard because depending on where your friends are in their lives, they don't understand everything that's going on with little ones at home. But then, as things are changing and the friends are kind of coming back and we're circling around and the people that are dearest to you, they stay and they're there and they get it that even if so much time passes and you haven't spoken, it's okay.
I agree. I think that's huge. Is one, the genuine friendships are always going to be that. Those are your ride or
Yeah.
dies. You could go months, weeks, or however without talking, but to your earlier point, when you guys come back together, it's back like you never left, rather it be in person or just a quick catch up on the phone. Um, I think it's so funny that you talked about how sometimes when you have friends, you're all in different seasons of life. And so now, where I am with my friend group, some have children, some don't. But because of that, especially when you have little children, I actually had a really good friend. I've known her my entire life, and she recently had a baby about 6 or 7 months ago. And so, because I had a friend who poured into me at that critical time, checking on me, "Are you okay? Do you need anything?" It's my duty because that
Oh,
earlier period in time, it's just so fragile. It's fragile for a
yeah.
lot of reasons. And that friend came back around and she said to me, she said, "I am so sorry that I was not the friend you probably needed me to be when you were at this point in your journey in motherhood." And it touched my heart, but you think I didn't, to your point of resenting people, I didn't resent her. You just know that it takes to be in the moment of being a new mom to genuinely understand the challenge that comes with that. But the fact that she was so convicted to say, I'm so sorry. It's like, it's all good. I'm so glad that
Yeah,
I can support you in this way. And I just ask that you pass it along to the next
yeah.
friend of yours who finds themselves with a new baby and the challenges that come with that. And so I was just like in awe that she felt the need
Oh,
to acknowledge that because we don't get it, to your point of the woman you have breakfast with every 6 months to kinda understand where things are going, like, those are the moments that I think that's such a, you don't wanna say strategic because it's a friendship, but you do want, like, line of sight into, like, what's on the horizon so that
yeah,
you either know how to prepare or you simply
yeah,
understand that you're not alone in whatever
absolutely.
experience you have.
Yep, yep, absolutely. And I think that that's sort of the bottom line to all of this is just that those connections help us to know that we're not alone, that there is somebody that understands how we're feeling. Even, sort of the irrational, crazy thoughts that you
Mhm.
have, that somebody else feels like that too. It is a remarkable thing what that connection, what it does for me.
I agree. So, as a friend to other people, they always say, in any instance, and not just in friendships, that we should treat others the way we want to be treated. And so, when you think about wanting genuine friendships that are worthy of your valuable time and that create a safe space for you to palms up, be real, be able to share, how do you create those safe spaces for your friendships?
I think you have to listen as well as as you share.
Mm,
Um, when my kids were little, and we're trying to teach them how to foster relationships and friendships, and you say you have to be a friend if you want a friend,
mm.
and I try to remember that as an adult. You can't just take and take. You have to be a friend if you want to keep a friend. And so, there I'll share my stuff, the good, the bad, and the ugly, but I also have to be willing to listen and um, you know uh, sympathize with my friends with the good, the bad, and the ugly in their stories. And if I'm not present and responding and checking up on them, it's not just being in that moment is so important, but remembering them. Think, and I'm not always good at that. When my friends share stuff with me, and then you get together 6 months later and they remind you they had this thing going on, and I think, oh gosh, I
Mm.
didn't reach out to you this whole time. I didn't say anything, and but I do have those friends that they're consistent and they do reach out and they remember what I've shared and they're praying for me. And I still strive to be that friend. I'm not there yet. But I'm so grateful for those women that are modeling what real friendship looks like, because I want to be that.
I love that. I love the raw honesty that says, I'm doing my best. I'm sure some people probably think I have some room for improvement as their
Yeah.
friend, but like,
Yeah.
but I'm
Yep.
doing everything I can, I promise, to be like a genuine friend to people. But I'm aspiring to be like those who have poured into me in the way that I want to pour into others. And I think that is just awesome because I don't think we ever, at least I rarely think of friendships that way. Like, wow, like if I think about the friend I want to be, who's that friend to me? And what qualities do they have that I aspire to have that I have not yet mastered? Or I'm simply unaware that I don't have those qualities and that I need to work on modeling them in a way that they do. Um, I had a podcast guest maybe like 2 episodes ago, and she says she has a friend who will literally just send there's no conversation needed. They'll send a heart or like praying hands
Yep.
in a
Yep.
text just to say, "I'm thinking about you." And I thought that
Yep.
that was so nice. You think sometimes they don't wanna be bothered with the long conversation. You don't wanna be bothered with a long conversation, but you guys are still really good friends and you just wanna say, "I'm thinking about you." That goes a long way.
Yes, yes. I am a fan of the podcast, and I heard that episode. I was on my walk listening to it, and I thought, "Why don't I do that? It's
Mhm.
so easy."
So
And
easy.
I think I did hear it 2 weeks ago, and have I done that yet? No. But
Same.
how yeah, I need to do that. Yeah. And
So
I
I
would
thought
love
that that
to
was
receive a
cool.
text like that too, because I don't always have time. I'm thinking now I'm feeling convicted. A friend did text me a couple days ago. I still need to respond to it,
'Cause that
but
happens too.
yeah,
All the time for me. I have a friend who the same friend, Heather, who told me, "I apologize, for not being the kind of friend you may have needed when your daughter was
oh,
younger, before she had children." I remember meeting up with her and saying something like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I just haven't been that great with text messages." And I remember her saying, "Yeah, you're pretty terrible with text messaging." And I thought to myself, "You don't know my story." Is what I wanted to say. But it's because you're trying to keep the people in your household alive, and sometimes you just can't give the
yeah,
conversation and the back and forth consistently that somebody's looking for. And so now if I were to tell her that, remind her of that moment, she would probably crack up because
yeah,
she now gets you can't always wait till her daughter can
right,
talk. When her daughter can
right.
talk, she's gonna be out for the count.
Yep, things change.
Oh, man. So if this letter had a PS, what would it be? Take your time. I think it's a very thought provoking question. You get to the
It
letter,
really
you
is.
say, "I'm done. I did what I was supposed to do for the episode." But the PS, that's always the hook because there's always just a tad bit more you either want to say, share, or just a word of encouragement you want to leave someone with.
PS might say, know that I'm here for you.
Mm,
As much as um, I desire that connection and the ability to be able to share the hard stuff. I also would want the recipient of this letter to know, that I'm a safe person, that I don't want to judge them as much as I don't want to be judged, and that I'm here.
I like that. I think that in saying, "I'm here," and I know you genuinely mean that for the friend that you have or for the person who may reach out, who could reach out and say, "That letter really touched me. How do you become a good friend?" Or, "I've been a terrible friend to people." Any advice on how I change that direction for myself? I firmly believe you would give them some level of guidance, wisdom, a gem to hold them and hopefully get them back on track. So I think to say I'm here for you versus typically someone would expect to be judged, I think that that's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I
So,
think that that might have made a difference in the friendship that ended for me too,
mm,
because I didn't feel like this person was there for me. And I think that I will carry that. There are lessons to be learned from all these things. And so if there's a lesson from the friendship that ended, it's that I want to be there for people. And if it means just sending that heart emoji or the praying hands emoji, that is the simplest way to say to somebody, I'm here for you.
I agree. I think prior to this episode, I think that it would be easy before creating awareness with your letter for us to say, "Oh, yes, friendships are so important." But really, the weight of friendships and their importance, it's it's been a reflective moment, and I really hope that the listeners take the moment for themselves, share this episode with someone who may need to hear it or be reminded about friendships that is really something that we need in our lives. We need connection. We need genuine and valuable connection, and we need safe spaces amongst each other to feel seen, to feel heard, and most importantly, as the whole basis for this platform, just to know that as you go through life, you're not crazy, you're not alone. There is someone out there who can relate, and if they can't relate, at the very least, they can support you in whatever you're going through on your journey. So I love that. With that being said, any last closing comments as we round out today's episode that you would like to share with our listeners? And no pressure, you don't have to. You've given so much wisdom and dropped so many gems on today's episode that I think will carry all of us. And I say us because it includes me as well. So, any closing comments to share, you're more than welcome to.
Uh, I will yield the floor, Your
Okay.
Honor.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so with that being said, Heather, this has been an awesome conversation. The awareness you've created around friendships and the value of friendships and just being people first and creating safe spaces for people. I really, really, really encourage the listeners of today's episode to really reflect not only on their friendships, but the friend that they are to other people. It's a two-way street. So I encourage you to do that reflection. It is my hope that Heather has given you some type of wisdom or thought today that you will take back and apply to your everyday life as it pertains to connection and relationship. As you know, if this has inspired you to write your own letter, whether it be friendships, your journey, life, or something else that has nothing to do with either, I would encourage you to make an outreach to me. I can be reached by email at hello@oamcollective.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at the Overachiever Mom. And of course, like, subscribe. You can access this podcast on all platforms. So YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and of course, Substack, where this entire platform originated. Until next time, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, Heather, thank you so much for your time. I so appreciate it and I value your willingness to come on the show and have a conversation with me today.
Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you for putting such goodness out in the world. It's been my pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. All right, guys, until next time. Bye.